I'm Assistant Director for the Environmental Science and Policy Program at the University of Maryland. I have with me today one of my colleagues and a number of student leaders that'll be introducing themselves. So I'll first start with Kristen, who represents the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources.
Hi everyone, my name is Kristen Coffey. I am the coordinator of recruitment for the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources. So I work with all of our departments and our prospective students in exploring their majors and choices. So today I'm really excited to join the Environmental Science and Policy program.
Okay, next we have Paul.
Hi everyone, my name is Paul and I am a senior environmental science major with a concentration in land use.
Next, we have Anna.
Hi, everyone. My name's Anna. I'm a junior environmental science policy major. My concentration is politics and policy, minor in nonprofit leadership, and a second minor in Spanish.
Next, we have Drew.
Hey, everyone. I'm Drew. I'm a senior ENSP major. I'm concentrating in culture and the environment.
Next, Maria.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maria. I'm an environmental science policy major with my concentration in environmental economics and then a double major in business analytics.
Next, we have Mikey.
Hello, I'm a junior environmental science major. My concentration is in land use, and I'm also a double major with Spanish.
Next, Courtney.
Hi everyone, my name is Courtney. I'm an environmental science and policy major. I have a minor in sustainability as well.
And finally, Olivia.
Hi everyone, I'm Olivia. I double major in business management and environmental policy. I'm a sophomore and hopefully I'll be declaring my concentration in global environmental change soon.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Again, I want to welcome everyone and congrats to all the high school seniors right now. I know this is a very exciting time for you because you're going to be deciding where you want to spend the next 4 years of your life. So that's where we come in. We want to help make sure that you're making the best decision possible. We want you to ask questions that you might have about ENSP, about the University of Maryland. And most importantly, again, we want to help you make the best choice possible for your future. So we know that you're probably weighing a lot of really great options right now. So we hope that this event tonight will make things a little bit easier for you. So what I'm going to do is, I used to always show a presentation, but I always ended up referring back to our website. So I've just been using our website as my main mode of presenting. So I'm going to show you the Environmental Science and Policy website. There I'll be showing you information about our curriculum, internships, careers, study abroad, anything that you would essentially need to know about our program is there. So I'm just going to walk you through a few things. Our students will be chiming in as needed. And then we'll give you some time at the end to ask them questions about their experience as students, not only within ENSP, but at the University of Maryland. I'm sure you have lots. So I'm just going to begin discussing our program. So the ENSP program is a very unique program in that we're considered a multidisciplinary program. We're the first major on campus that's like this. Essentially, we are sponsored by multiple departments on campus. So we have this structure where 3 advising colleges sponsor all the different concentrations within our major. That's because if you think about it, environmental science and policy is not just one thing. It's not just studying the water cycle or studying different types of clouds or photosynthesis. It's everything from dealing with policy issues to the oil spill that's happening right now in California, to the wildfires that were happening out west, to endangered species, to understanding soil and water quality. So as opposed to having just one flat curriculum, we allow students to study the same lower level courses within ENSP, Introduction to Environmental Science, Introduction to Environmental Policy, a number of labs, economics, geography, but then they get to choose a concentration that best fits their career goals and their interests. So we have a number of different concentrations within the program. They are categorized here by advising college. So you do see here quite a few. So all students in ENSP start out with the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources. You were considered what's called an undeclared student in ENSP. Undeclared means you haven't declared your concentration. You don't know what you want to do yet, and that's okay. You know you want to be an ENSP major. This is where you want to start. So I'm actually going to start with this page to show you some of our lower level requirements that students have to take. So this is what we call our ENSP core. These are lower level classes. Many of them are prerequisites for other courses in the program. And again, all students, no matter what concentration, will be taking these courses for their degree program. So we have what we call our core. Again, intro to environmental science, intro to policy, a senior capstone course that will be taken your last year. Some applied science and policy courses. They're upper level courses ranging anywhere from water and ethics to environmental law. And we actually just launched a new course this semester in environmental justice, which is ENSP 370. We're excited about that one. Students will have to take calculus, one stat course, and some combination of biology, chemistry, and earth science, economics, and geography. Some of them may be required, others aren't. Again, it depends on the concentration that you want. But as you and I will be meeting for advising, we'll be talking about these things, talking about maybe what concentrations that you think you might be interested in, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and then we kind of work through that to determine where your interests may lie. And then we have what we call general education. These are university requirements. So all students across campus, no matter what their major is, has to take these. Those are your English, maths, humanities, social sciences, and things like that. Once students hit roughly 40 credits, this is when you will be expected to pick a concentration. Oh, Marie and Courtney are in the same room now. So once students hit 40 credits, that's usually once your freshman year has been completed. You've had all of those lower level courses. You kind of are getting the gist of what your strengths are in and kind of what essentially you want to start focusing in. That's where you will choose your concentration. Again, you can consult with me about that. I'm just going to show you a couple of examples as to what the curriculum will look like for some of our concentrations. What's nice about our major is that there really is something for everyone. We have students that love being in the lab, they love science, so there might be concentrations that have a lot of biology, ecology, organismal, mammalogy, chemistry, organic chemistry too, physics. And some students are like, nope, that's not for me. I really like the behavioral side of environmental science. I want to study behaviors and people in the social science. So they might choose a concentration that is more focused on government or policy or law, economics. So I'm going to show you just two examples of kind of like the extremes between the different concentrations. So the first one I will show is, I'll do environmental politics and policy. This one is sponsored by the Government and Politics Department on campus. So all of our concentrations are sponsored by a department. And I work with each of the departments very closely, making sure our students are meeting the requirements and being advised correctly. So we click the degree requirements here. Again, this front page looks the same among all of the different concentrations. You have your core, general education, some combination of labs, economics, and geography. But then when you get to page 2, page 3, this is where things start to split and become more specific to that concentration. Again, because this is government and politics, you're going to be expected to take a number of government and politics courses. You have American government, comparative politics, eco-politics, other government courses, environmental law. And then we have a category that we call, restricted electives. Restricted electives are essentially upper level courses where you essentially get to pick what you want to take. So we have in this section 6 courses that students can take, ranging everywhere from world hunger to environmental history to agroecology. Again, you can pick the 6 courses you want to take from this list, depending on your strengths, your interests, and your overall career goals. So I'm going to show you one more concentration. Let's do biodiversity and conservation biology. So this one is for those who love science. So it's the degree requirements here. Again, here's your front page. Everything is listed here. You will notice that some of them are required. So it would say required next to the course. And then page 2 is where things get really specific. You'll see here, this is very different from politics and policy. We have molecular and cell bio, organismal, genetics, ecology, Orgo 2, Calc 2. And then your restricted electives, again, you have a big list to choose from. So you could take courses in, ecology, but also we have some management courses, wetlands, another wildlife management course. So you have the option to, again, choose courses based on your interests. Again, you won't have to worry about this until you've hit roughly 40 credits. Are there any questions about the curriculum before I move on? I don't think so. Okay. Okay, I will move on next to internships. So we have a number of students that participate in internships. Unfortunately, even with COVID, we've had a lot of students have opportunities. We've been very fortunate that a lot of companies and agencies have offered remote opportunities for our students. And some of them are still continuing, but a lot of them have started to be in person. So we have students that can get credit for ENSP 386, which are internship course. A lot of students are actually registered for the course this semester. So a lot of students ask, where can I work? Unfortunately, with our location, a lot of places are available to you. So this is organized by subject area. So these are all within the region, within the DC region. Some of them are out further in Maryland, but you'll see here there's a lot of different organizations within the area that students can work. Just today, I looked at all the students that were currently enrolled in our internship course, and they are working everywhere from, let's see, we have U.S. Department of Transportation, the EPA, USDA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, Mary Perg, which is an advocacy group. We had one student that was on a farm in Hawaii. We've had students with a lot of opportunities on campus. There are some nonprofits that focus on wildlife, Defenders of Wildlife, City Wildlife, the Chesapeake Conservancy, Anne Arundel County Health Department, law firms. So again, you have a lot of different options, which is great for students kind of figuring out what they want to do. A lot of students are overwhelmed by all the concentrations that we have within ENSP. So it's nice that you have these opportunities to work and get experience and sort of narrow down your interests more. The only way you're going to know what you like doing is to start doing stuff. That's what I always like to tell my students. So again, you can read this for yourself, lots of opportunities in the area. So we really encourage students to get as much experience as possible, whether it's through internships, through research. I mean, we've had some students graduate with 4 internships under their belt by the time they graduate. So the opportunities are endless. And I just recommend that students really pay attention to emails and announcements because there's a lot out there. So just make sure you take advantage of all of that. Next, I'm going to kind of go one step further and talk about careers. So a lot of the places that I mentioned earlier are places where students actually end up working when they graduate. One page I really encourage students to go to is our ENSP alumni careers. And I update this every week. So alumni will reach out to me, say, hey, Angela, I got a new job. Can you update the alumni career page? And I'll go ahead and do that. So you can click by concentration and just kind of take a look at all the places where our students are currently working. Again, you'll see everything from law firms to nonprofits to federal agencies. Some are in academia, some are currently in graduate school, they're doing research. So again, you have lots of opportunities, and that's the nice thing about having a multidisciplinary curriculum is that you will be prepared to do a bunch of different things when you graduate because you'll have a lot of experiences on your belt. So that is it for careers. Does anyone have questions about anything before I continue? Nope. Okie dokie. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is study abroad. So we're fortunate that COVID is getting better and that these opportunities are starting up again. It's really exciting. I already know I've been talking with another student over the past week who's thinking about going to Italy next semester. I'm another one that's thinking about possibly going to New Zealand. So these are some popular programs for ENSP students. You can essentially go anywhere, with the exception of maybe 2 countries. We will work with you as best as we can to make sure that whatever you're taking will count for your ENSP degree. I always say I never want to penalize a student for doing something really great. So fortunately, with some of the programs that are available to students, you have a wide array of classes that you can pick to take. We'll make sure that you're taking courses that are relevant to geography or to environmental science or to law or government. We've had courses take sustainable ecosystems of New Zealand or biodiversity in Costa Rica. And as long as it deals somehow with our major, we'll make it work. Again, we don't want to penalize you for participating in a program. We'll make sure that whatever courses you're taking abroad will count for ENSP in some way. For semester-long programs, it's expected that students take roughly 4 courses or 12 credits abroad. And for winter term, it's usually 1. For summer terms, it could range from 1 to 3, depending on the program that you choose. There's a lot of really great opportunities that are focused on the environment or sustainable ecosystems, so they're themed. Others, you could go just for a Maryland program. So there's Maryland in Rome, Maryland in Barcelona, and you take courses at that institution. And again, we'll look through their schedule of classes to identify courses that you can take to work for ENSP. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Does anyone have questions? I just did a lot of talking and it was probably a lot of information, but I really would like to make the opportunity available for you to ask some questions, to clarify anything that I've said. I don't know if our students want to add a couple things before we start, the Q&A portion. If there's anything that I didn't talk about that you would like me to elaborate on, I'd be happy to. You can always just put it in the chat as well. Well, I guess I covered everything. Okay, well,
I'm so sorry.
That's okay, go ahead.
So I would like to be, my career goal is to be an environmental engineer or consultant. And I've been to this session and the other environmental related major session. But I would still like your input on which one do you think is better for that particular career path for me.
So consulting and engineering are a little bit different. So with environmental engineering, there are specific courses you need to take in order to be qualified as a legit engineer. So you might need to take certain courses from an accredited program. So like our engineering programs on campus are accredited and are designed for students that want to be a legit engineer. A consultant can mean many different things. It could just be someone who's an expert in the field giving advice and consulting with clients on how to be more sustainable or how to, make a building more green certified. So we've had many students in ENSP become consultants. Engineering is a little bit different because it's very, very technical. You have to take a lot of, probably a lot of different types of physics courses, a lot of different math, quantitative courses that may not be offered through ENSP, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be an engineer. You might just have to take some supplemental courses. So really, a consultant, yes, absolutely, that would definitely work for ENSP. The engineering side, maybe not so much because we're not as technical as the eco-tech design program or like civil engineering, you know, those types of programs on campus. So hopefully that was a little bit clear. Any other questions about careers, opportunities, classes, the student experience? Well, I have a couple questions for our students, if you wouldn't mind asking. So what I did was I kind of compiled some of the more popular questions that have asked, you know, by other students and participants at these programs in the past. So I have a list here. So the first one that is the most popular is, why did you choose the University of Maryland over other schools?
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say that the thing that really interested me was the concentrations. I thought that being able to kind of tailor your own schedule, I mean, obviously like there's guidance, but being able to kind of hone in on whatever your particular interests are is really helpful. And I also found it nice that if necessary and you need to change your concentration, that's also quite possible, because I've been there. But yeah, I think that the concentrations were definitely a big draw for me, as well as just like the program seemed and is in practice very like close knit. I feel like I know a lot of the people that are in my classes nowadays, so it's just like a really personable program for me.
Oh, I had a question then regarding the different concentrations and about changing them. Like, when would I be able to do that, and how would I go about doing that?
Great question. So I can give Drew as an example. So Drew started out as a wildlife concentration. And like I mentioned before, once you've hit 40 credits, that's like kind of when I'm like, okay, start thinking about your concentration, because at that point you're going to be beginning your sophomore year and you've kind of exhausted most of your lower level courses by that time. So you'll start, you know, taking courses for your concentration. You'll create what we call a graduation plan, outlining your next couple of semesters through graduation, so you can see all the courses you're expected to take. You'll get an idea of the requirements, prerequisites, and things like that. So Drew started off as wildlife. I think he maybe did like one semester, maybe two. And then she decided that she wanted to switch. The good thing about ENSP is that there's a lot of overlap between concentrations. So we were able to apply a lot of the courses that Drew had taken from her wildlife concentration to her new concentration. And again, those lower level requirements like bio, chem, geography, ENSP 101, 102 work for all of the concentrations. So it's okay to switch early on because so many of the concentrations have the same requirements in the beginning. So it's definitely, I mean, I've had students that sometimes switch like 3 or 4 times, or they've gone back and forth, and they still could graduate on time. So that's great. And, you know, like Drew mentioned, we do have a lot of flexibility. So even if there wasn't a course that you've taken that wasn't on the requirement list for your new concentration, if it's relevant, we can make it count. Again, not if it's like a music class, but if it's still relevant to environmental science and to your program or your new concentration, then, you know, we don't want to delay anything. So as long as you're taking relevant coursework, we'll do the best as we can to make sure your transition to your new concentration is smooth and that you can still graduate on time. I see a question here about the concentrations being offered as minors. That is not an option. ENSP doesn't have minors. However, there are lots of minors on campus that students can declare. The sustainability minor is kind of like a mini ENSP major. There's basically like everything overlaps. But if you want to kind of familiarize yourself with another discipline, you know, there are languages, there's statistics minors, there's soil minors, there's minors like Anna said in nonprofit and leadership studies. There's, you know, languages. There's a lot. Minors aren't mandatory. They're about, you know, 15, 16 credits. So if you're looking to get, you know, upper level depth of knowledge in another discipline, you know, a minor is a good option. But again, there's no reason to declare a concentration like a minor, again, because you can't. But there's so much overlap with and flexibility with the program that you can really get what you want in some capacity, just with the major alone. So hopefully that makes sense. Any other of our current students want to ask about or answer the question about why they chose Maryland over other schools?
Yeah, I would just add on to the things that have already been said about that. Is just the location, especially for internships or just possible job opportunities down the line, being literally so close to DC, but also not being terribly far away from like the Chesapeake Bay. I just think we're at like a really prime spot for environmental issues and stuff like that. So it has a lot of great opportunity being where we are.
Yeah, and sort of in line with the conversation about concentrations, it made me feel more comfortable coming in because I didn't know which specific aspect of environmental science I wanted to study. Now I've chosen land use, but it made me more comfortable that the major is housed in 3 different colleges here. So we're in the College of Agriculture, but also the College of Behavioral Sciences, and also the College of Natural Sciences. And then you get to specify within the major what you're going to choose from them, and that just made me feel more comfortable that I would have time to explore, because I had only really taken like AP environmental science in high school, and that was all the environmental science specific classes I had taken to that point. It made me feel more comfortable that I would have a lot of choice and time to make the choice.
Anyone else want to add to that question? If not, I see we have another question here. What is your average class size? I can answer that, but I'll let our students do that one.
If you mean like in lectures, I've been in classes that have maybe 90 people, and then I've been in classes that have 12 or 14. So I guess the further along you go and the more complex classes you're taking, the smaller the classes are going to get. And you're going to start to see the same people in your concentration in your classes with you, which I think is really fun. But again, you're going to start off in giant lectures and labs, and that's okay. And then you'll probably get in smaller classes the more you decide to concentrate in.
Yeah, I just want to speak to what Anna said about seeing the same people. Like my Tuesdays and Thursdays, I literally walk to class with almost my entire class from 12:30 until 4:45. Like we have the same exact schedule. And so like it's a really great resource to just have each other. And yeah, I agree, the classes have gotten so much smaller, but like you do occasionally have to take like a big like 200-person lecture. So I don't want to leave that out. That does exist, but yeah.
And I'd add that I'm sure many of you are familiar with discussions. That's something probably new to most people when they come to college. But I'm actually a teaching assistant for the 101 and 102 course within our major, so the Intro to Environmental Science, and then the sister course, Intro to Environmental Policy. And so those will either have like between 150 to 175 people, which is a lot of people in the lecture, but I would definitely say that it's still personalized in its own way, because you will be going to a class with between like 18 to 24 people within it. You're going to be going there once a week. You're going to be able to ask your questions. You will have a specific TA whose email you have, so you don't have to email the professor themselves for every small question about homework or something like that, or about a specific paper topic, because you know they have so many students, but the teaching assistants don't. And so you still have, a personal contact in those big lecture classes that you'll have to take. And there really aren't that many. For this course, I don't think I've taken more than 2, just 101 and 102 that had over 100 people. And then it gets smaller pretty quickly from there.
Yeah, I'm glad Mikey mentioned the discussion section because it can be very overwhelming and kind of intimidating to have huge lectures, but it's comforting to know that they are essentially broken down into smaller groups that are more personalized, where you can ask questions and have conversations with people about the content of the course from the previous lecture, and you get to know Mikey, your TA. Okay, so I have another question. Where is it? Why did you choose ENSP as your major? Some of you kind of mentioned it already, but there might be other.
Hello. Okay, so I chose environmental science and policy. So I actually switched into the major right before my freshman year started, and I'm a sophomore now. So I've always been really passionate about the environment, but when I was looking and applying to colleges like you were, I wasn't sure, like how to balance that with, my other interests. I've always loved econ. And then when I was looking at the program that we have at Maryland, and how that like environmental economics is a specific concentration, I think that is a big reason of why I chose it. And then also just getting to know the ENSP community has been really amazing. It's definitely a major where like you can really make a lot of wonderful connections, which I think is, a little different from like some other majors. So this last year when I was in like the 101 and 102, like the big lecture halls, I still got to know, I feel like a ton of people, even though it was still virtual, and it was a very supportive community. So I've super enjoyed it overall.
Yeah, and I'm going to piggyback off that. I didn't really know what I wanted to do either. So when I was in those big lecture halls, I definitely feel like that's when I kind of saw all of the options that I was presented with, and I was able to like choose what I thought I would be interested in. So that's why I ended up in policy and politics. And I think that like now I've really found my group of people. And I'm going to speak to what was said earlier, that you should just keep trying things until you really like it or you don't like it, because that's honestly how you're just going to like figure out yourself. I think like a really big part of this time too is just like trying and failing, because you don't want to try and fail when it's too late down the line. And now is like a great time to do that.
And honestly, it's okay if you don't know what you want to do. We're all still figuring it out. It's figuring out what you want to do with the rest of your life when you're 18 years old is pretty daunting. You're going to be constantly changing your interests. I mean, even when I was in grad school, it wasn't until I really figured out like where I wanted to go with my career. So it's going to be constantly changing, but as long as you know you're in a major that is satisfying and exciting to you, that's kind of where you want to start. And then you can always kind of spin off, in different directions down the road.
Yeah,
Mikey, do you want to, go ahead.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I would just say that I knew that like if you watch talks about like how to be someone who's successful, like there's a lot of stuff that you can figure out down the road, but the core of it is that like you want to be passionate about what you're doing. And so I just knew that, and I think probably all of us or most of us can agree with this, that like climate change was something really important to me, and I thought it was going to be the challenge of our time. And so I just knew that like it's such a broad thing, but knowing that there is like, I'm passionate about sustainability, and there are so many different ways that I could contribute to that, whether that's from a policy perspective or a science perspective, or really any way that you could do it. Yeah, I just knew that it was something that I was passionate about and that there were multiple ways to do it. That's why I chose ENSP. And then do you want me to speak
Mikey,
to the question about teaching assistants?
Yeah.
So the question is, do teaching assistants teach some of the classes at UMD? And I believe the general answer is no. Teaching assistants assist in the teaching. And so we lead discussion sections. So we will lead certain, like for the 101 and 102 classes, Intro to Environmental Science, Environmental Policy, that you'll have to take. There will be 2 lectures a week, and that is always going to be led by the professor or a guest lecturer. And then your discussion sections, that's your smaller one, that's going to be led by teaching assistants. So they'll normally be in the room for the lectures. They'll be helping out, passing out papers if they need to be doing that. But the lecturers are, I'm pretty sure, always professors, whether they're permanent or adjuncts.
Also, I think that it is a little bit dependent on the professor. I'm a TA for Anthropology 222, which is Intro to Evolutionary and Ecological Anthropology. And for that one, there's a lab section. So in comparison with Mikey doing the discussion section, we help with the lab. And there's also a difference. Sometimes there's graduate TAs and then there's undergraduate TAs. So like Mikey and I are undergraduate TAs. So mainly like we wouldn't ever step in typically to lead a lecture or, you know, run a lab, that sort of thing. Whereas graduate TAs do have a little more power over that sort of thing. Like I know for the lab sections that I TA in, they're led by a graduate. So it definitely depends on like what the professor is comfortable having done. But yeah, I think Mikey explained that pretty well.
Yeah, in most cases, an undergraduate TA wouldn't lead a whole, like teach a whole course. It's, if anything, it would be a graduate student, you know, maybe they're seeking a PhD, they want to go into academia, and it makes sense for them to get some experience teaching. Okay, so I have another question. What has been your favorite courses so far at the University of Maryland?
I can start off. So I'm currently in Introduction to Environmental Law with Professor Goger. Professor Goger has kind of become like a mentor of mine, and environmental law is something that I'm not interested in a career, but it's really important and interesting to me. And the way it's taught with case law, we take exams with blue books, like it's almost like an introduction to law school. So the way she teaches it, we're able to like decide if law school is something that we're interested in. So that's obviously been one of my favorites. And then a second one of my minors is nonprofit leadership and social innovation. And I've taken so many nonprofit courses at the university. And like just a little bit outside of ENSP, I took one and I was able to gear all of my projects and papers towards environmental issues. And my professor loved that, helped me through it. And I was then decided to take on that minor. So with any of those courses that like you have the same professor or you're really able to like pick something you're interested in, I'd say really go for it, because I've been able to find stuff I'm very interested in, but also figure out what I'm not interested in. So those two courses were pretty fun.
Yeah, right now I'm taking a course, it's ENSP 340, so it's directly housed in our department, and it's about water. It's the science, policy, and ethics of water.
Ethics.
Yeah, and ethics of water. So it's been really interesting. We started with like the history of human civilization through the lens of water, and then get into water policy, and then get into what is an aquifer and different types of water contamination. And it's really like, it's just been very fascinating once you get into these upper level courses to really cover a lot of ground, because there's a lot to be learned in environmental science. And I just think it's been very interesting, because water is really like the core to the environment in general, and any ecosystem on Earth. And it's just been really fascinating, and I've enjoyed that class.
Any other favorite courses out there?
I think a personal favorite class that I've taken is urban wildlife management. I think we so often, when we think of like wildlife or animals, we typically tend to think way further than just outside our home or the cities we live in. And I think that's such a key element to the environment around us, is the animals that have adapted over time and have lived in such close quarters with us. And it's definitely important to learn how to not only manage them, but also coexist, because that's how a lot of animals have fully adapted to changing. And it was just a really fun topic to learn about.
Yeah, I have another course, and this one I wouldn't necessarily call it my favorite, but I really appreciated the course. And it was two of them. It was a remote sensing course and a GIS, which is Geographic and Information Systems. And so they were both technical courses that had a computer lab involved, and it's working with mapping software, it's working with satellite imagery. And so they were definitely tough classes. And so they weren't necessarily like so interesting as like my waters course, but they were just extremely useful and extremely insightful and taught in a way where me, who has no really computer science type experience, to be able to learn how to use these like computer softwares that you actually might use in your career as an environmental scientist. I just thought it was very well done in a way that people could do without a computer science background. So I appreciated both of those courses.
Yeah, I would say just like I've taken a lot of courses that are like environmental something, like I've taken environmental sociology, environmental history, environmental anthropology, and like all of those are just like really cool because you get to look at environmental science through a different sort of lens, a different specialty. And so I think that those are really cool. And like, because they're all centered on environmental science, essentially, like they count for a lot of things. So they've all been really helpful for me.
So I can't hear anything.
No?
Oh, no, I heard Mikey. Okay, it came back. I want to thank Drew for bringing that point up about understanding environmental science through different lenses. And that's essentially why our program exists. That's why we have this multidisciplinary structure and why you're expected to take courses in different departments. Because like Drew said, environmental science is all over campus. It's offered, in the English department, they have courses that are about environment. History does, all these different areas that you wouldn't think. And they all can count for ENSP. So it's really important to understand environmental science through different perspectives and different points of view. And that kind of helps you become better problem solvers, when you are going out to the real world. How many students are in the environmental science program? Great question. Just under 300. So we're considered, relatively mid-size-ish, smallish kind of program. Compare that to engineering or biology that might have a couple thousand. Computer science, for example, has quite a few thousand students. So we like being the size that we are for some of the reasons mentioned before, is getting to know our students, getting to know the faculty. I think that really helps in terms of your college experience being on such a big campus, kind of having a small program feel certainly kind of gives you the best of both worlds. Other questions? I have one more for our students. Now that we're back on campus, what are some things that you've missed in College Park? Because we've been away for so long.
I've definitely missed the mall, the McKeldin Mall, the McKeldin Mall and the McKeldin Library, because they're on the same place. The mall is the center of campus, it's the heart of campus. It splits it in half, and so above it is North Campus, below it is South Campus. And so because we have to have masks on in buildings, you're allowed to take it off for a short while to eat at certain places, not necessarily in a lecture hall. I just decide to eat outside. So days where I'm on campus for a long time, I just pack a lunch and I just sit in the mall and people watch, and it's crazy. Like during class changes, just watching in the span of like 6 minutes, hundreds of people just cross through the different lanes through it. And it's just been very nice to be like surrounded by people, but still have so much space. It's really a big campus and a big school, but a small program, so you get to know everyone. And then I definitely miss the environment of being able to study in the library, just because whenever you go in there, everyone is so focused and doing their things that it just motivates you to do it too. Studying in a college library, it's like the most productive environment you could ever be in. So I've missed both of those.
Some of you really didn't miss too much because you've been like living on campus. Go ahead, Anne. I'm sorry.
You're good. So I was actually home for a year with COVID and everything. I'm from Annapolis, so it wasn't that bad. My favorite thing is just being here. I still feel like a new baby, like, oh my gosh, people are yelling, that's great. But it's really amazing being in an environment like a college campus where everyone around you is, they're doing classes, but also like you could run into someone that's working for an NGO and tell you about their startup, and that's something that you don't experience everywhere. So it's really amazing being able to be back around everyone and to even just walk to classes and see one of my friends and wave and say hi. It feels kind of novel, but it's really important. And I really love being able to just wave at people and say hi because I've been gone for a little while.
I honestly was just going to say the food. There's a lot of excellent, delicious restaurants or cafes right by campus all around the College Park area that I definitely frequent more often than I probably should.
We can kind of give like a different perspective because our first year was just Zoom University. So being on a campus, we call ourselves campus freshmen. It's been great in many ways, but I can definitely like back up Mikey when he says like seeing people in the zone helps you being in the zone. I feel like when we're here, you can never like escape college. It just makes you like get in the zone even more and motivate yourself to keep going. Like, what else can I do to get myself that further? Do you have anything to add?
Something I really love just being here is there's always stuff you can be doing and be involved in. So when I got here, after being in my house for like 18 months or so, I just wanted to get involved. And even like, it doesn't have to be like serious, like academic clubs. There's like Terps After Dark, which is like one night, it was just ultimate Frisbee at like 11 p.m. And we were just all out there. Like, there's just a lot of wonderful things you can do on campus. I mean, there's a ton of really great clubs and like sports, and just getting involved and really just getting to meet people has been wonderful. And yeah, I guess I didn't like miss it, but just like the transition has just been a very, very positive one.
And that's why I like working for a college campus, because for all those same reasons, I still feel like I'm a student and you get to see different types of people, and you're all here to learn and make yourself better and prepare yourself for big things. So it's a special environment to be a part of. Thank you to those that answered the question about double majoring. Yes, students double major all the time. Paul is a double major with art. Mikey is with Spanish, I believe. You cannot double major within ENSP. You can't double major in the same major, but you can certainly double major with business like Maria is, and we've had students do German, Russian, math. So again, depending on what your own goals are, you might want to consider that down the road. Okay, so we have just a couple minutes left before it's 5 o'clock. I'd be happy to take any other questions. Otherwise, you can email me. I'm going to put my email here. I'm happy to follow up with you via Zoom or just via email. Any of our students can attest that I'm pretty responsive with my messages. So please feel free to email me. Kristen, I'm not sure if there's anything that you need to relay on the admissions side of things.
The only thing I'll add is I'll put our website and email address in the chat as well if you'd like to connect with us. But you heard from some wonderful students tonight, and I think the student experience really sells you and explains more than we ever could about any of our programs. But we're happy to connect with you throughout this process. Do know that if you are a current senior or community college student looking to apply to the university, make sure you check out those deadlines, especially those of you applying for freshman admission for next year. November 1st is the early action deadline. So make sure that you hit that. November 1st is right around the corner. So don't wait too long to submit your application. And if you have questions about any of that, please let us know.
Yes, please email inspire@umd@gmail.com. All the students here today will be behind that email address, so you can definitely follow up with them if you have any further questions, or with me. There's the website to the AGNR admissions page. But again, I really want to thank you all for attending today and to congratulate you on your senior year and making this big next step. It's very exciting. And again, we want to make it as smooth as possible for you by hopefully answering all your questions and easing some of your concerns. And, we're happy to help you, further your exploration at University of Maryland with hopefully with an ENSP. If you do get accepted and you do confirm your admission, you'll be meeting with me next summer for orientation. So hopefully I'll see you in person next summer after you graduate. So again, please reach out to us and thank you and best of luck and have a great evening.
I had a question. Would it be feasible for me to double major in ENSP and engineering?
And engineering? Yes, but that could be a very heavy course load.
Yeah.
Challenging, maybe. Heavy, yes. Engineering, their curriculum, from what I can remember, is pretty black and white. So if you were really interested in engineering with, environmental, you could think about civil engineering, or maybe doing engineering with a sustainability minor. That way you can still get some of those ENSP courses and other environmental courses that are offered without overwhelming yourself too much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.